Hello, hello! Welcome back to the third video of this series on what your body is trying to tell you to guide your purpose and relationships. I'm so excited to dive in. We're going to be covering a lot of really cool stuff today, and so grab your water, grab something juicy, and let's dive in. So as you know by now, I'm Colleen Coles, and I'm a purpose alignment coach and energy healer, helping women all around the world, just like you, get real authenticity out from inside to the outside, really being themselves in the world, in their relationships, and in their awesome, meaningful work in the world. So you can finally just feel free being yourself and doing what's in most alignment for you. How cool is that? It's super cool. And so as an energy healer, I'm in this series combining what I've learned from my own body, my own healing, from chronic cystic acne and gut health issues, all this different stuff, to really see how my body can be a guidance system and how it can be a guidance system for you too. There is such innate intelligence in what our cells store for us and in the intuitive ability of our body to know the answers even before our mind, to be able to clear out the ego stories, clear out the fear, and really just give us what we need to know and have that compassionate clarity and guidance every step of our way so that we really can pivot anytime we need and know we're being guided in every step. If you're at a crossroads right now, whether it's, thinking about staying in a relationship or leaving, whether it's being in a career that you no longer love, but maybe you're really good at, you don't know how to shift, whatever the case may be, all of these big life decisions are gonna show up throughout our life. And it's gonna be there to test us it's just life, right? But the good news is that you don't have to feel alone. You don't have to feel like it's all up to you. And if you make the wrong choice, your life is over, right? Even if there are really big consequences, like, your choice affecting your children, or simple things about what you should do for your health and what's really in your best interest. Like every little decision will have a consequence. But what makes it less scary is when you can tune into something bigger than yourself to know what is really the best option for you. So I just think of a client I had who was really in a crossroads where she knew that staying with the relationship she was in was going to affect her kids. And she didn't know what to do. And through learning these techniques that I shared with her, in learning how her own intuition showed up to her in her energy, through the energy clearings that we did together, she was able to find the confidence that was already within her. It was just covered by a lot of fear, a lot of doubt, a lot of worry, a lot of conditioning that was keeping her really, really, really stuck. And by the way, next video, which is the final video of this series, is, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm just so excited. It's gonna be so good. This blew my mind when I clicked and realized what I'm gonna be sharing on the next video. It's like, whoa, it's just amazing. So not to give it too much hype, but I'm gonna go there. It's so good. Anyway, so what I was saying was, in next video, the part 4, the final video of this series, I'm gonna be sharing what really we can. I'm going nuts. Okay, what we can learn from feeling stuck, and what our body is even telling us that is beyond the stories, beyond the confusion of our mind. This is so cool, and what's really cool about it is it's using Maslow's hierarchy of need to really understand why we feel stuck and what that stuckness is actually telling you to do. So it's amazing stuff, specifically for when we feel stuck in a crossroads in our life, in our purpose, in our career, in our relationships. All of that's here to guide you. And today what we're gonna be focusing on, so stay tuned for that. What we're gonna be focusing on today is more on the language of your body and how you can really tell what it's trying to tell you before you even make a decision. Last class, last video, what we did was I taught you all about body mapping, which is a term I created to describe how to really understand the language of your body, the guidance of your body. Because let me just be honest with you, I don't usually think about like my body and guidance. I'm not a health coach. I'm not really into it. What I am into is you being your most powerful self to be able to help the planet in the way that you're meant to. Because if we all do that, if we're all more authentic, if we're all in the confidence of the light of who we're meant to be, then we can go out and share our gifts and radiate positivity in a way that can only happen when we're really in alignment, when we're really doing what we truly want to do, which, by the way, is what I believe is what you're meant to do. And so when we vibrate at that higher state, when we're really making the best choices for us, when we're feeling confident being ourselves, and when we're doing the work we're meant to do here, that's when we can all just help the planet so much more and raise the vibration and like really heal for ourselves, for our children, for our children's children, for the past, for the rest of humanity, for the freaking planet. It's freaking mind-blowing. That's my big why. Anyway, I'm getting off track a little bit, but all of this is so important. It's so crucial for your life, for you being the best version of yourself, and for you feeling free to be that in the world and then help other people through your gifts and talents. Shit. Okay, so anyway, last video, what we did was I taught you about body mapping and how to kind of read your body's guidance. Oh yeah, that's where I was going. I'm not really into health. What I am about is how our body can help us be ourselves. And knowing that we have this compassionate friend always in this life. And it's through our system. And sometimes it doesn't feel like that when we chronically get sick or we're in a pattern that we don't like. And it's hard, but through shifting and healing that, through what I shared last video, we can start to feel free, we can start to feel guided, we can start to feel more relaxed and good. And like we always have a friend, always have somebody there in our corner, and it's called our non-judgmental body. It's so beautiful. Okay, so go watch that video for sure because it's so good. But what I covered was this thing called body mapping, which I termed as a way to understand kind of like the treasure map of your body, because it's not through like a voice always that your intuition speaks through your body of. It's more like looking at a map and seeing where the things are on the map to help you know where to go. Today, what we're going to be covering is not so much like how to read that once the ailment comes through or once the health comes through, you know, to guide it, but more how to make great decisions up front so that you don't even need to like troubleshoot, if you will. You can know you're being guided beforehand. So I want to share a story with you, but first, before I do, go ahead and drop in the comments for me where you're coming from today and what you're most excited about in learning how to know your intuition. Okay, I would love to hear from you. Let's see. So, I just get so excited. It's like hard to grounded. But let me share something really quick with you. So here's a little nugget that I want you to take home. If you ever feel too spacey or too excited, what you can do is take a stainless, this is like a really cool energetic tip. If you ever need to feel grounded, what you can do is take a stainless steel spoon or fork, and you know it's stainless steel when there's a magnet that can connect with it. Just rub that on your feet. I did it earlier. I'd probably go do that again if I weren't recording this video right now. And just put it on the soles of your feet to actually demagnetize yourself from this polarity of heightenedness and ground. And it's like you're stepping on grass when you do that. You can just feel guided. Even just think about it. Brings me back into my body. Okay. So the story I want to share with you is to demonstrate how just having tools to really know what your body is saying can really save your life and can help you even when things get kind of more dire and you really need the guidance. I also want to share through this story these main takeaways here. You know, like if you're ever feeling stuck, You don't have to as much when you really understand. The body speaks in a language that's more symbolic, that's more interacting with the world and life. And when we can understand those pieces of what it's saying and the symbology of it, we can not only understand our body and the guidance we're receiving from that, but bigger guidance that we're getting from life itself. And through that, in my journey, I've found is the coolest gift, because then you really don't feel alone ever. Especially in relationships, when we're alone, like, it sucks, right? But when you constantly can see how, God is really involved in your life and spirit, and you're being guided and you're being watched, and you can have this co-creation through seeing the symbols in the world react to your life, like right when you need it, synchronicities, all of that, like, we can really feel more on purpose and more like you're not alone. So what I want to share with you is the story of when I really saw this in my life, and then share how you can, apply it for you too. So back in 2016, I was studying to become a coach, and one of the events in this coaching program was in Italy. And so me and my husband went to Italy, and before we went to Florence, where the event was being held, I and my husband went to Rome to meet up with his friend who he knew from high school. So this friend was a really cool guy. He studied abroad in America with my husband, and they became buddy-buddy, brothers almost. But as an adult, he still was a little bit immature, and he still had tendencies that were like a high school boy that my husband even warned me about. Hey, he likes to give you a hard time. He kind of prides himself on what he does in the world. He's not the best listener. And I come from a family where it wasn't always supported or encouraged to be a spiritual person, to be intuitive, or to even really speak my truth. It was hard to really be myself in my family sometimes and express my opinion when I'd kind of get yelled at, or felt like just in my own self I wouldn't be loved if I were really that person. Like I was too bright to shine all of those gifts, or what I was seeing and experiencing and how I saw the world, or even just my opinions. I felt like I'd be shot down and not supported by my dad and my mom. Not saying that's all true, that's just how I felt. So as we were in Rome, I remember sitting on this bus as we went to tour from one place to the next to this friend of my husband's. And as we were talking, this friend of his was talking about his practice as a doctor and all these things he's been doing. And here I was just trying to become a coach, just transferring out of a career as an elementary teacher and starting to really tap into the knowingness I had of my spiritual gifts and angels and all that type of thing. But every time I tried to communicate that, I would be cut off, or I felt then it wasn't safe to say, and it was triggering all those other feelings from the past of I can't say this, even though I really wanted to. I really wanted to communicate what I knew or who I was and stand up for that and be brave. But every time I tried, it was like I was getting cut off, or if I did finally say what I wanted to say on the topic, it wasn't taken seriously by this friend. And it just the whole medical thing versus energy and spirituality, it just wasn't taken seriously. And I really felt down on that. I was felt less than. So we go to the basilica, and we take fun pictures, and then we go to lunch. And we're sitting at lunch in this beautiful patio on this plaza in Rome. And I'm eating this salad, and I have a tree nut allergy. So I made sure to tell them, hey, no tree nuts. Luckily, we had a translator right there, him and his girlfriend. And so, no nuts, only oil and balsamic vinegar, cool. I'm eating my salad, and all of a sudden I feel this crunch. And I was like, ooh, what was that? And I asked this friend, I was like, hey, you made sure to say there was no nuts on this salad, right? He's like, yeah, absolutely. I dig in, I was like, oh, it's just a lemon seed. So when I had lemon on my salad, I had, I guess, put a seed in there, and I cracked it open. I accidentally swallowed some of that, and very weirdly, I started to get really itchy. And as I got more itchy, my stomach started to hurt. And I was like, this is really bizarre. It's just a lemon seed and that I crunched into my salad. But I was like, it's fine, guys, it's fine. And I just kept listening. And that whole like conversation really reverberated into the present as well. I wasn't really speaking up. I was getting shy. I didn't feel totally myself, or that it was safe to be myself, just like inward. But the whole symptoms kept getting worse, and I couldn't figure out why. We even started walking around more, and they were getting espressos and cappuccinos, and I was like, I feel so terrible. I was keeling over. I started to get hives, and we were walking from, they were like, maybe have espresso to make you feel better. I was like, I don't know, that doesn't seem right. Even though I really wanted to experience this, but like my body was getting in the way. I was so frustrated. As we're walking and continuing on, like this friend is like, too bad, getting his espresso, and we're walking. I get so sick, I throw up on the side of this wall into the bushes because I'm so sick. I have hives all over my body. Now my husband's really paying attention. He's like, hey, like, what are we gonna do here? And I was like, we need to go home. We had this day planned, but I was like, I have to go back to the hotel. When we get back to the hotel, I am totally covered in hives. Like, I've had anaphylactic shock before with this nut allergy, which is so like, ugh. But luckily my throat wasn't closing, but I had hives like I've never had before. Huge welts on my scalp, on my back, just all over. Itching, chills, like totally messed up. And we had plans to go to dinner with these two friends that night, but I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was so scared in a foreign country. No way in hell could I actually afford to go to like the emergency room. I just did not know what I was gonna do. And finally, I really surrendered. I really surrendered the fact that this was happening to me, that my body was putting me through this, and I forgave it. I forgave what was going on because I kind of had no choice at the time. That's how I felt. So I finally just started to put into practice, I guess, what I knew, which was like, girl, tune in. Ask for help. Ask for help. And so as I sat with my knees to my chest on the bed, just in total agony, I asked my body and I asked God, like, God, what can I do? I just surrender. I don't know what to do. And what I heard was go into the shower and take a cold shower. And so I go into the shower and I go and I put the cold water on, and it starts to soothe my body. It was totally agonizing because it's freaking cold, and I was still super itchy, crying, just really not knowing what to do. I was really, really scared. And I turned it off and I kept listening, and it would be turn the water back on. And I'd say, okay, it's on. Should I turn it off yet? Nope, keep going. And then it would say, shut it off. So I'd shut it off and it'd go cold. And I just kept following step by step what my guidance was really telling me to do. And as they started to reside, I took a rest and tuned in to see, should I even go to dinner tonight? I really wanted to, but my husband was really relying on it, but of course we wouldn't go if we couldn't. And I was getting the guidance that yes, it'd be okay to go. So what was so crazy was I was so nervous and thinking, how the hell am I gonna even eat dinner, right? Like I had thrown up multiple times by now and finally was easing the swelling and the hives, but I was so scared to think, like, how am I even gonna know what to eat, right? And so this is where knowing the guidance and hearing that intuition and knowing how to read that was starting to actually come into play. And I had this sense that as long as I kept using the tools that I knew, I would be guided. And so it was a risk, but I decided to get dressed. My husband was like, are you sure? I said, yes, let's go to dinner. So I get dressed in like really loose clothing, still feeling like a grandma, just totally shaken up. and we go take the subway, and it's nighttime. We're in this beautiful, again, plot. Like, there's so many plazas and cool statues in Rome. We were at, someplace, and we met his friend. So we're at dinner, and what's so nuts, we finally sit down. It's this beautiful experience of a waiter coming and just bringing plate after plate and family style eating. And what was so cool was that because I had these tools of being able to tune into the guidance of my body, I used them to even know exactly what to eat, what plate to touch and feel out. And so with each plate, I touched it, felt the guidance, and knew it was safe. Touched a plate, guidance, knew it was safe. Touched the plate, guidance, that one's now good. All right, not eating it. Like, by this point, I was totally on par with my body. I was like, yo, body, we're in it to win it. I don't want to die. And like, I gotta listen now. And this was the miracle that was delivered from that listening, was that meal was completely in joy. Everything tasted amazing, of course, we already would assume that, but I was able to really enjoy it because I wasn't getting sick. I wasn't getting sick after a whole day of throwing up hives as big as like baseballs on my body, and yet none of this was hurting it. So I say that all to share, I'm gonna pause in the story just to share, like, this is the power of being able to know how to use your body as a friend, as a companion, even when things get hard, even when things get scary and tough. Or for example, I think of a client that I love and cherish, who had said, she was driving in a new city that she was visiting and talking to the Uber driver and sharing like, oh my God, I kind of feel nervous in this area. And she went to this Airbnb and got home, and when she opened up the door, there were like two guys like ready to assault her. Luckily, she closed the door, got away, but she was so pissed that she had even shared where she was staying with that Uber driver who she felt was involved in this thing. And luckily, she learned through our work together some tools in how to tune into the body, to even like make sure beforehand, is this really right to say right now? Is this the person to say it to? If you've ever had a dream, like sometimes it can be so debilitating when you are ready to share what that idea is or that dream is to an audience or to family members that don't get it. And all of a sudden you're like crushed, and it takes like days to just get back your mojo to like move it forward. So these ways of tuning into your body to tell you what like is best is the gift of really moving forward. Because if you knew like that person ain't the one to tell this about, you don't have to recuperate. You can use that energy and go tell somebody who's gonna care, right? Or whatever it is, health related, like it was for me. Should I stay in this relationship? Is this the right trip for me? I've used these tools in tuning into our body for even knowing when to take a trip. I was like totally strapped for money, but a friend of mine had invited me to Belize. And I was like, well, there's in my mind, no way that I could go. But I just used the tool right now. I was like, should I share this story? And my body gave me a yes. That's specifically unique to me. So I know I'm gonna share this story, and I know I'm gonna share this tool, which is so cool, just to like bring back the curtain and tell you like, yo, I use this every freaking day. There's multiple tools for different scenarios. I used one in Italy to be very specific, very exact when it really mattered. I used another one just now. You couldn't even notice, right? You had no idea. And that's why it's so powerful, because you can use these tools in public, and not be considered a crazy person or whatever. Like, all of this is to say, like, there's multiple tools for multiple areas of your life. But back to the Belize story, my mind was saying, no way, you cannot go. And but I used a tool that I want to share with you. And before I share it, I use this tool to say, like, is this trip really in my highest good? And the yes that I got was a yes in my body. And I was like, what? No way. And I really double checked and asked again, but I was getting a really clear yes, like this trip is for you, girl, you go. So I used a credit card and I went on this trip to Belize, and this trip totally changed the whole trajectory of the year for me. I was able to just like feel so much more upliftment, more pleasure when I was being really strict, back to that story I shared in the first video of the series. I was able to just totally see a new way of living that then I incorporated into the rest of my life that year and beyond. So it's just so cool. So you might be wondering, like, okay, how could I use one of this? Oh my God. And like, before I tell you, I just realized there's this second part of the Italy story that like radically changed my life. So how about this? I'm gonna share this tool with you and then get back to that story, because it's so cool how the symbolism of not just the body mapping like I talked about, right and left side and then more, can guide our way, but also how the symbolism guides us in life itself. And then we really, really feel connected and can always feel that guidance. So I want you to go ahead and just take a minute and stand up. This is a tool I really love called the body pendulum. And this is one of like a couple of tools, they're just out of this world. So if you want to stand up with me, what I'm going to show you is how to really tell what's something for you, like a yes, and what's no. So go ahead and just stand. This is obviously something maybe to do when you're more in a physical space. You can show this a little bit, but you can also do it discreetly. So say you have a question, okay, that you kind of need a yes or no answer to, or even a food that you're wondering if you should eat, or a gift that you think you should buy for somebody, but you're not really sure. What you can do is just go ahead and calibrate and ask your body, like notice how you're feeling now, and ask your body to show you a yes. So just relax your body and take a deep breath, and yes, yes, yes. So for me, I lean forward. Typically that's how it is. We lean forward towards what is good for us, and back or to the side if it's a no. But it's gonna be unique to you. So yes, yes, yes. For me, I just immediately go on my toes. It's something like internal that's like centered, that's moving me. I'm not just like moving. That was my desk. And now I'm gonna calibrate and say no, 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 no. I kind of go back immediately away from what it is. So once you calibrate, you can ask your question, and I'm gonna just, for example, hold up this stone that I have, and I already know I really love this because it was from women I absolutely love when I had my baby, and they blessed this stone with their blessings for my baby. So say this was for sale and I wanted to buy it, and I wasn't sure if this would really like be in my best to buy. So what I can do is just place it to my body and just ask my body to show me if this is meant for me or if this is for my highest good. I immediately go towards it, and that's a yes, right? Or whatever the yes is for you. And the way is just really great to just take a deep breath in, let it go, and that's how we can tell. So that's a yes. I don't know if I have anything right now that's a no, but you can do the same technique. You just breathe and no. It's probably gonna be like to the side or no. Sometimes it can even change, so definitely calibrate. But like this has been the case for me for the last couple of years. So it doesn't change too often in what I've found. So let me know how that serves you and what questions you want to ask your body to start practicing, to start seeing if this is really something for you or not for you. You can use it in so many situations. It's so amazeballs. And let me know in the comments, where do you go? Do you go up for yes? Do you go back for no? Tell me, how does it show up for you? And where do you think you're gonna use this? I would love, love, love to hear. So as we wrap up, I wanna just share this last chapter of this Italy story, where later that night after dinner, I was really floored at how well this other technique I haven't showed you really works. And I wanna share just this one for now so you can get better one by one at it. The other one that I used that night takes a little bit more training, and we don't really have time to go in depth. I would be doing you a disservice by fitting it into this video. So the technique that I used that night was like mind-blowing to me, because I never was put in a situation that I had to really have it work. it felt life or death at the time. And so that night we said goodbye to Michael's friends. We were walking around in Rome, and all of a sudden we come to these beautiful ancient ruins. And we sit down and look down at this amazing theater. We were at the top, and it was stairs and then columns of kind of degrading marble, and there were just all these ancient ruins. And we just sat and like looked, and we're sitting and like just taking it all in. And what I started to notice was the patterns that had happened that day. And this is what I want to be teaching you in the workshop I have coming up, which is going to be so good. And more specifically on understanding this language, which we can't fit into a 30-minute video. But using the way to understand symbols of life, like a shaman or medicine person, and the symbols of your own body, I was able to see this huge message. I realized, okay, wait, chomping that seed, that had never happened before. I realized, okay, I was vomiting, I was hiving up. What was going on? Well, I realized vomiting was like outward moving of inside things. Hives, I knew, is like fear, is just many fears. And for me, they were big fears. And I said, okay, and I had been sitting with this friend, and earlier that day, I was like, well, what was I not projecting out that my body then chose to get out, right? And what I had not been sharing was who I was. I kept trying to talk. I kept trying to share like my opinion, my expertise, but it just wasn't being accepted. And I got too scared to really let it out. And all of a sudden, I randomly chew on this lemon seed that never has happened before, never has happened since, that then created this experience of vomiting out, basically protruding out all that was inside. And so all that was my body expressing what I did not have the courage to express on my own. When I realized that, my mind was freaking blown, because it gave me the conviction to really share what I meant to share. Because if not, the energy is still in there. It's just building and building and building. And what also is happening? Hives. Those hives in body language means fears, little fears. And the fear that I had were big, baseball-sized fears of not being accepted of who I was, all of that coming to the surface. And so if I were to share it, I believe I wouldn't have had such a crazy reaction, or even found that lemon seed to chew on. So going back to even part 1 of this series of looking at how the ailment is really for our good, and showing up and manifesting from our thoughts and from the energy that we have inside, just manifesting out when we don't have the courage to do it for ourselves. And so when we look at those symbols, that language, we can see, I need to speak up more. I need to be confident in who I am, and know that will be created through me speaking up and speaking my truth, not hiding who I am, even with a doctor. So when I realized that, it was freaking mind-blowing, and to this day, I've had more confidence and courage to really speak out and speak up and stand true to who I am, because I don't want a reaction like that, because I know that energy's in me, and it's gonna be manifested somehow if I don't have the courage to speak up. So it's just nutso to me how thoughts and energy and emotion can create a physical experience, and then be guidance for our soul and for our journey here on earth. So I hope you dig that. Please do write me in the comments of how this all resonated with you, and how are you going to use this tool this week. I'm so excited to hear. Next video is the last video of the series. OMG, we're gonna be closing it up, and I'm just again gonna be sharing the biggest takeaway I've had personally of, that's my baby, there he is again, of knowing how when we feel stuck, what is really coming out, and how our body is trying to communicate how to get unstuck. How is life talking to us through that stuckness, and how can you move forward in a brand new way? It's mind-blowing. You do not want to miss this. So can't wait to see you then. I gotta go. Lots of love to you, and thanks so much for joining me. I so appreciate you, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much.